Hello, everybody. I'm Sandy Wilson, cellist of the Alexander String Quartet, and I'm here together with Fred Lifsitz, my colleague of 35 years or so in the Alexander String Quartet, and a very, very good friend, Eli Eban, the extraordinary clarinetist, colleague of mine for even longer than I've known Fred. And we're here to talk about a wonderful new recording that we made last year and is going to be released in August of this year. It's a recording of the Brahms and the Mozart Clarinet Quintets, and those two chestnuts that go so beautifully well together. This project is on a Foghorn label. It's right here. You can see it, and I have it here in hard physical copy, but of course you can download it and stream it in high resolution. And I want to just talk a little bit about the quartet's relationship with Eli. Many years ago, in fact, 1973 to be precise, Eli and I met for the first time, and we were in Israel. I came from England as a cellist to join a whole lot of wonderful young musicians from 46 different countries, I recall. I think there were 8 of us who came from Britain, and Eli was coming, I believe, from Curtis at that point, from Philadelphia. And we met in Netanya and spent 2 or 3 weeks there with Zubin Mehta preparing some wonderful programs that we toured all over Israel. It was my first visit ever to Israel. And I remember, which places it in context, that it was amazing. It was my first ride ever on a 747, and it was the 25th anniversary of the formation of Israel. And what a wonderful friendship we made. I have kept in touch with many of the musicians I met during that fabulous summer. They're now scattered to all corners of the earth, but Eli and I in particular have maintained our wonderful friendship and our collaboration musically. And I'm going to ask you, Eli, to talk a little bit about our work together.
Well, indeed, we met in 1973, and the chemistry, I think, was immediate, both musically and personally. That particular orchestra had representatives from many countries over the world. I did indeed come in from Curtis Institute in Philadelphia, but I represented Israel in the orchestra. And our coaches and mentors, in addition to Zubin Mehta, were some of the elders of the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra who had come out of Europe, of course, war-torn Europe, and founded a new /old culture of chamber music in Israel. Just very briefly, Israel at the time, there was no TV, there was just radio. And the entertainment center was the grand piano in many houses. And amateurs, very highly skilled amateurs and professionals used to gather together in the salon of a Friday night and play chamber music. That's where I first encountered the works that we are now recorded. First the Mozart Clarinet Quintet, and later on the Brahms. And these works, they are of a depth and of a level of spirituality, if you will, that has been unattained, as the Erich Bromberger's notes reflect, by any other composer that attempted this genre before or after. Fast forward to meeting in, I believe it was Monterey or Carmel, when we first played together as a clarinet quintet, myself with the Alexander Quartet. And again, immediate chemistry and an immediate sense of brotherhood in music, which has, I don't want to say endured, but has lasted some 40 years or so. And it's a great, great pleasure. I mean, this with you gentlemen is really one of the happiest collaborations I've had with these pieces of music, exploring them in yet ever greater depth. And of course, to record these with you is a long, long postponed pleasure, and I'm just overjoyed that we had the chance not only to concertize so often over the years, but to put it down, as we say, put it in the can for our CD.
Well, the idea of posterity with these is, of course, wonderful. We waited a long time to record them, Ellie. We talked about it a number of times. And, of course, all these performances we've been able to give, and there's never enough, but to be able to give in the subsequent rehearsals for them have yielded a much more mature version of two works. I mean, Mozart's work is relatively mature in his output, but Brahms is extraordinarily mature in his. I mean, after all, he had considered retiring from composing before these works were written. So we have two works, both inspired by the clarinet, or the clarinetists, the respective clarinetists for both Mozart and Brahms, that set their hearts and minds on fire with this format. And the benefit for us is these two works, which are very similar in some ways in terms of form, the last movement variation and things like this, and yet so different. But those years of playing with you and the ability for us to go back and forth, for you to sit down and say, you know, even 10, 12, 15 years after we first played, guys, I have an idea for trying something a little different. My thinking has changed about this. I think has yielded an extraordinarily special rendition. And then, of course, as you have said before, the sad thing, of course, is now we've recorded them. So we'll just have to wait 10 years and do them again, which is torture.
Well, there's still other good, very good clarinet quintets. We could do those as
There
well.
are.
But I'd just like to talk about, just briefly, the genre of the clarinet quintet is a rather special unit. And I think that one thing that our long-time collaboration has yielded is a sense of playing this as a clarinet quintet, not as a clarinetist tacked on or glued to a string quartet. And just a blossoming from within the group of the clarinet quintet, the clarinet plus string quartet, of musical ideas, I think is ever deeper and we hope ever more convincing by the fact that we have become a quintet for clarinet and strings, and not quintet.
Well, we share that sentiment, Ellie. It was a long time coming, but it's such a wonderful way to celebrate our friendship with such extraordinary music. So maybe it's time to start thinking about the Rager next and what we'll pair with that. But in the meantime, please enjoy this recording. It brings together tremendous brotherhood, fraternity, I think, in wonderful music, which is never more important than in this time of pandemic. We are thrilled and delighted to have something so positive and restorative to share.